As you know, I was born with cerebral palsy, and that meant that I really wasn't seeing myself as athletic throughout my childhood or early adulthood. And then I got into this crazy world of endurance sport and kind of changed my whole concept. But one thing that research shows about people with cerebral palsy is that over about the age of 40, 45, it gets harder to move, and chronic fatigue or aging increases more quickly than the general population. So I don't really know how many more years I can do this in sport, which is something I haven't really talked about before. So I don't know how many more years I'll be able to do this. And I really just wanted to take my love of running and adventure and journey and the privilege I've had of being able to kind of take part in endurance events over the past 5, 6, 7 years, and use it for something that would have big impact on as many people as possible, and use it for good.
That's ultra runner Tom Crossland, and this is the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. You can personalize your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com with electrolytes in different strengths to match how you sweat. You can get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. And we're also brought to you by Tribe, Natural Sports Nutrition. You can try a Tribe pack of 6 delicious 100% natural vegan energy and recovery products for only £2, including free delivery. You can head over to wearetribe.co/oxygenaddict offer, select a 6-pack, and enter the code OxygenAddict20 at checkout to get your pack for £2. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I hope you're all good. I've got a cracker of a show for you today. Long-time listeners to the show will already be familiar with Tom Crossland's story. We had a short interview with Tom on almost a year ago now. Tom is an ultra runner who is preparing for, get this, a 90-day, 3,500 kilometer ultra run between Greece all the way back to London to highlight the plight of people who are human trafficked and to try and raise money to help prevent human trafficking for the Tribe Freedom Foundation. Really, really interesting story. Tom is an athlete I've worked with for close to 5 years now. Genuinely one of the most interesting and nicest guys you're ever going to meet. And the thing I love about his story is he doesn't come from a traditional, was extremely good at one sport in the past. As you can tell from the sound clip I used on the intro there, Tom has cerebral palsy. Natural running doesn't come easily and naturally to him, but he's worked incredibly hard over the last 5 years and beyond to get himself to the point where he's physically and mentally prepared to do this amazing achievement. And also he's just chipped away at his training week in and week out. So I'm really looking forward to bringing you the story of somebody who is a genuine everyman who is going to go out and achieve something absolutely mind-blowing. So stay tuned for that later on today. Before we do that, a little bit of triathlon news for you that I've noticed. Hats off here over to the tryrating.com website. Our friend Torsten's produced a really interesting update on all of the 2019 Ironman distance times and finishes and updated the records of the year. And a couple of things stood out to me that I thought I'd mention to you today. The fastest Iron distance races in 2019 by a woman was Lucy Charles Barkley, who went 8:31 at Challenge Roth, and by a man was 7:44 by Tyler Butterfield, which was at Ironman Cozumel, I think, from memory. I might be incorrect on that one. Also in there, hats off to our longtime friend of the show, Joe Skipper. He has taken the title of the fastest fastest on land category with his race in Ironman Florida. That's the fastest on land of all time, not just of 2019. So well done to Joe Skipper. Brilliant performance for him. The fastest female race of all time is still Daniela Rief's Kona win from 2018. And that still blows my mind. Kona's not known for being a fast course, and it was a fast day for there, but that was just a mind-blowing performance as well. So, get over to tryrating.com. Check out Torsten's posts. He's always got loads of interesting, informative stuff going on. And if you're a stato geek like me, there's loads of updated things you can dive into there and have a read of. Okay. Before we go into this week's interview of the week, a shout out to sponsors Precision Hydration. Now, you might have heard at the top of the show there, we've got a new code for you. If you want to get yourself some Precision Hydration and you haven't tried it yet, you can get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. That's valid on all of their products across the site, and it's even going to work on their currently discounted multi-pack deals as well. So a really good deal for you there if you want to go and try that for the first time. You can go to their website and you can take their online sweat test. That's a load of questions that's going to give you a good lead as to whether you're particularly heavy or a particularly salty sweater. If you are, or if you already suffer with cramps really badly, if you suffer when you're racing in the heat with not feeling very well, it's a really good sign to go and see them in person or one of their agents to have an in-person sweat test done. It takes about an hour, and it gives you an exact reading for how much sodium you lose in your sweat as a sort of number of milligrams per litre, and it'll also give you your sweat rate. Those numbers don't change apparently across your life. So once you know that, you've got those forever. So you can, for guys like me, extremely salty sweater, it's really important for me to take on enough electrolytes in any workout that I'm doing. I've always struggled with cramp, and when I get on it with the Precision Hydration electrolytes, I have no problems with the cramp. When I don't take it, even a simple turbo session indoors in the winter is enough to have my calves locking up. So if you're training indoors on the turbo, if you're on the treadmill, even if you're in the pool this time of year and you're struggling with cramps, Precision Hydration's electrolytes in different strengths that match how you sweat could well be the answer. So get over there and check it out. Remember, the code is OxygenAddict15. Okay, over to this week's interview of the week with ultra runner Tom Crossland, telling us about his run to Refuge, a 90-day, 3,500 kilometer run from Greece all the way back to London. Tom Crossland, welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. I hope you're very well today. How are things?
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me. I'm feeling great today, and today's really a really good day.
Good stuff, man. Hey, well, listen, some of our long-time listeners will need no introduction to you. We had you on roughly about 6 months ago now to give a little trailer for this crazy adventure that you're going to be going on. And I said to you after that, we really could have made it into a bigger, more interesting long-form interview. And so here we are 6 months later. You are, 4 months away from the start of Run to Refuge now, pretty much about then?
Yeah, about 15, 16 weeks.
Wow, not that we're counting down or anything.
No.
Right, well, let's go back in time. And for people who haven't, I've done a little introduction to this before we record the interview, but let's give people an overview of just how ridiculous the scale of this adventure is going to be. Tell us where you're running from and to, please.
So starting in May, on May the 1st this year, I'll be starting in Athens in Greece, and then running up through Europe all the way to London in the UK.
Now, I've been on holiday to Greece, and it's a long way in a plane, right? How far is it by foot, by the route you're going to take?
The route I've plotted is between 3,500 and 3,600 kilometers.
Wow. And what is that going to involve for you running on a day-by-day basis?
So the way I structured the run is the running days are between 45 and 60k, and then every week I'll have a rest day or a day to catch up if I need to. So it roughly is about, if you average it out, it's about a marathon a day for 90 days.
Wow, let's let that settle in for a minute. That is quite the undertaking, my friend.
Yeah, I feel good though.
Well, let's go back in time then, because I sent one of my friends this weekend. I was away doing some mountain walking with a friend, and I was discussing this interview that was upcoming, and sort of saying, one of the challenges I've had in the past when I've listened to interview with people who've done massive multi-day adventures like this is I've always felt as though the gap between where I am sitting on my couch listening to an interview and completing something like a 3,500 kilometer run where you're doing a marathon every day for 3 months is so enormous and impossible. And people who've told these stories on Rich Roll's podcast and things like that, they sound so organized and they sound so incredibly efficient and so incredibly confident. And I can't connect with that. And it's been really interesting to be involved with you sort of in the inception of this 4.5 years ago and all the way through, to watch how your confidence has kind of built over time to get to the point you can even contemplate doing something like this. And you've said to me off air, you're not what people would consider to be the typical person to go out and do a 90-day marathon a day type adventure. You're not from a pro triathlon background or a...
No, definitely not.
So tell us a little bit about your background then, Tom.
So at school, I wasn't what you would consider any of the good athletes in school. I doubt anybody would have thought that I would be doing this kind of thing once I grew up. I was always back of the pack, always racing a couple of friends across the line to not be in last place on the school cross country, which I absolutely hated. I'm not a natural runner. I've got cerebral palsy, which means that I have some kind of tightness in my left side and minor motor function difficulties, coordination. So my running gait isn't the prettiest and I'm not the quickest runner. I never saw myself as an athlete. I was not picked for rugby teams, football teams, all those things that the people on Rich Roll kind of tell about their backstory, that, oh, by the way, I was almost an Olympic swimmer or something.
Yeah.
I was definitely not that. And I think just over the past 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years of starting in endurance sport, starting in adventure racing just for fun. I love being outdoors. I love mountains. I love being running around the countryside. Just starting in those longer form endurance sport, I started to realize that it wasn't always about being the fastest or the quickest. It was also about how you prepare, how you manage yourself day to day, how you manage yourself during those events, which meant that I wasn't at the back. And then through daily hard work, taking very small steps and going through that daily process of just being consistent and just getting outside and running, I've built up very slowly to the point where I did a 7-day multi-day ultra called the Grand to Grand in Utah and Arizona in the USA. And following that, I was kind of thinking, so I can do that. What's the next challenge?
Hang on, don't skip past that bit. Let's go that. So 7 days, is it? 7 days through the Grand Canyon, isn't it? And I still, despite having known you all this time, I still struggle to quite comprehend the idea of doing 7 days entirely self-supported through one of the remotest areas on Earth.
In the US, yeah. It's a stunning race in a stunning area of the world, put on by a great team of people. And it's self-supported apart from water and shelter. Everything else for those 7 days you have to carry on your back.
So all your own food?
All your own food. So it's a real balancing act between the front end of the field will be going as light as they can on calories, whereas for us mid-packers it's balancing between how light do you go and how miserable do you want to be, how hungry do you want to be on a day-to-day basis.
Well, give us... Go on, sorry, I'm laughing because I thought just yesterday I was complaining about carrying a week's worth of groceries back to my van from Tesco's, and you've got to carry an entire week's worth of food while you're doing a running race. What are the distances you did every day during that event?
the first day is an ultra, so it's 30 miles. The second day is, I think it's a marathon, or just over a marathon, and then the third day is the long stage, which is 86k, so 50 miles, 52 miles, and that goes on through the night, with most people finishing the next day. Then there are 2 marathons, and then a short 12k sprint to the finish line for the last day, up a really steep hill.
So you've got to carry all of the food for that. What sort of amount of calories a day were you taking, and what kind of foods can you actually carry to be carrying that for 7 days?
You're focusing mainly on dehydrated meals. That's where the bulk of your calories come from. I think I was varying between 2,500 and 3,000 calories for the long stage. The race put a minimum of 2,000 calories a day, but that is really low calorie.
That's a low calorie diet for someone on a diet, sitting around and watching telly, isn't it? Let alone running between a marathon and a double marathon every day.
Yeah.
What's the experience like then when you're out doing something like that? Are you constantly hungry the whole time?
I wasn't. I think I got my nutrition pretty well spot on. I've done a lot of testing of that. I did 4 days running around on my own in North Wales, camping at low level, so not carrying everything, but just testing out whether I could live on what I'd planned to do. So I wasn't that hungry, but I know a lot of people were very hungry. Lots of people by day 3 can't eat their meals, so there's lots of people not eating all of their food and being very hungry.
Yeah.
And it becomes about managing your own admin and managing your own needs, and trying to just recover each day, ready for the next day. Which I love, that kind of all absorbing nature of these kind of projects, that you can't be thinking about the office email, you can't be thinking about Facebook or Instagram. The only thing in your mind is, what am I doing right now, and how am I preparing for the next day or the next part of the race?
Are you someone who can take in your surroundings when you're doing an event like that? Does the natural beauty of the places that you're in enter your vision even, or is it kind of a head down and one foot in front of the other after a while?
I think for me, the only way I cope with those kind of events is by taking in the surroundings. That's the other reason I love multi-day endurance events, is the places that you get to go in the world. You get to go and see some stunning scenery, and if you're not stopping to enjoy that kind of environment, enjoy that scenery, then it seems a bit of a waste to me. If you're just focused on the 6 foot patch of dirt or trail in front of you, that could be anywhere in the world. So you might as well step outside your front door and go for a long run.
So 7 days through the Grand Canyon, then that was pretty much seen for a couple of years between us as the ultimate. That's the ultimate thing.
Goal. Yeah.
You get there, you complete it. You complete it in really good shape, and I was sitting here tracking you every day, looking at the finishing, and you were well there every day. You were well up in the middle, sort of the middle half, the top third of the pack, consistently every day. Yeah. And
which again was a really unusual experience for me, being up there in the top third. That's not something that I'd experienced previously.
Yeah,
kind of in my childhood.
Do you think it's a reflection of the thing that you said earlier about taking care of the day-to-day, one small step at a time, but consistently take a small step forward every single day? I'd imagine that element of your preparation serves you really well in a pretty relentless multi-day event.
I think it is. It's about trying to enjoy or go through the process every single day on a daily basis of just, however tired or however miserable the weather is, just going out and being out there, trying to gain that 0.1% or not even that, just being out there for that consistent time, and then learning to listen to your body, because by that process you learn when it's okay to push on, and when you need to take a day off or recover or slow down, and you learn that it's not always about going as hard as you can, as far as you can. It is about managing your body on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I really like that.
And then going into a multi-stage event, it kind of is a microcosm of that. That if you everybody on the first day goes out a little too hard, but if you try to, unless you're in the top 10 and you're trying to race the race, if you're the rest of the field like I was, if you go out as hard as you can, feeling really fresh and excited on the first day, and smash that day, then you're going to suffer on that on the next few days. So it's about being really in tune with yourself and being really in tune with what's to come. Yeah, and having confidence in your plan and in your progress, and not getting too caught up in what other people are doing.
It sounds like, I mean, I'm well aware there is a real skill element, a mental skill element to ultra running that is exactly that. It's all about recognizing that how you feel isn't necessarily representative of how you might feel in, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours time, and being able to save your effort and save your mental energy for what's coming next. It sounds like you've sort of almost unwittingly discovered something, that your mindset allows you to be extremely good at a physical challenge that you had no idea growing up that you would be incredibly well suited to.
No, and that's one of the things I love about running is you learn so much about yourself, whether that's 5k park run on a Saturday morning or a 3,500 mile run across Europe. Every time you go out, every time you step outside your door, you learn something more about yourself.
All right, so tell us then about the formation of the idea to do this run all the way from Greece back to London. When did you first have this idea, and what was the motivation behind it? If you can even remember back that far.
So it has been a little while now. I think after I finished the Grand, as we all do, we were looking for the next thing to challenge ourselves, and I'm sure your listeners will understand that it's always, okay, so I've done that, what next? How do I either, for a lot of people it's how do I get faster, but for me it was never about the speed. It was about how do I challenge myself in a different way. And around the same time was around the time that the Syrian refugee crisis was happening in southern Europe.
Yeah.
And that just really resonated with me. And that idea of people, through no direct fault of their own, having to leave their home with what they could carry or what they could fit in the car, and try to get somewhere that is safe, just really resonated with me. And I can't imagine that happening to myself.
Yeah.
And the idea of people making that journey from southern Europe across Europe to reach what they believe was a safe refuge in the UK resonated with me. And so that idea of making that journey, that metaphorical journey, was where the idea was kind of came from.
Wow. That's unbelievable. It's hard to imagine, isn't it, that's what so many people are going through. And as an inspiration to do an event like this, both for your own personal challenge and then also to sort of raise awareness of this, I think it's a pretty epic undertaking. Talk us through the logistics of like, how on earth do you go about organizing a 90-day run starting in Greece and heading all the way ending up back to London?
So again, it feels almost like that daily small step process that it is so vast that trying to do it all in one go was just overwhelming. So I've really tried to break it down into small stages, thinking about what I can do in the next day, the next week, the next month, so that I can get to May the 1st when I start all prepared, or as prepared as I can be. So for me, following our last discussion in May last year, the most important thing for me was to get the route nailed down, so that when I was talking to people, I could tell people where I would be at times. So that process took a long time of a lot of peering over, a lot of peering over various maps, using Google Earth to try and plot a way through some of these countries that I've not been to. So relying a lot on other people that have been to these countries, linking with long distance walking people to try and come up with a sensible route that was going to be interesting for me as a runner, but also feasible. And then just trying to think about what that daily would look like and trying to get that daily route down so that the dates are set in stone, or as set in stone as they can be. And then following that, it was about trying to arrange support crew to come with me and volunteers to come with me. And now I'm in the last 15 weeks. It's about trying to get the message out there and get some momentum behind the project.
Yeah. All right. So how on earth are you going to go about, firstly with crew? How are the crew going to come out and help support you? Where are you going to sleep every night? Is it fixed start and finish points every day? How does the whole thing work logistically?
So I'm going to have a motorhome. My current task is sourcing that motorhome. So if any of your listeners happen to have a motorhome they would love to lend me for 4 months by the end of it, I'll happily accept it. So the crew will be driving in that motorhome. I've got definite confirmed crew for 11 of the 13 weeks. And they'll be driving along that motorhome, meeting me at predetermined points on busier roads. The first stage through Greece and up to Serbia is all going to be on roads. So on busy roads, they'll follow me to keep me safe. But if it's quiet road, they'll move on ahead and prepare food, and that gives us the flexibility that if I don't achieve my goal of that day, we can either camp by the side of the road or head back to a village or forward to a village, then come back to that point to start the next day. And and then the idea would be that more crew would come out and swap in now with them, so that we could have a rotating crew members through the 15, 16 weeks.
I see. So you've got kind of people doing a week at a time to crew for you, and hopefully they're going to take care of you in terms of transport, travel, food, cooking, get the bed out, all that stuff. What about people to run with?
There are a few people that would be interested in coming out, and if anyone wants to come and join me for a weekend, people can run the whole distance with me. If there's anyone that fancies doing 90 days, I'd be more than happy for them to come along for the whole time.
Brilliant.
But if there are people that want to fly out or drive out for a week, then they can either run the daily distances. The full route is on my website at runtorefuge.com, so you can have a look at that. That's got the daily distances on. If they seem a bit overwhelming, if you're not quite at 50, 60k a day, then because I've got a crew van, we could look at reducing those days and having you picked up and driven to the next point and doing a bit more. So there's quite a lot of flexibility in that.
So we're basically looking for anybody who's interested in having any kind of multi-day running adventure.
Yeah,
who's got that adventure. A runcation, I like it. There can be anybody who's got any kind of run background at all to keep you company for some of the day, all the way through to all of the 3,500 kilometers. I love it.
Yeah.
So we mentioned your website then, that's runtorefuge.com. And like we said, we'll keep mentioning this through the show because I know what my listeners are like. I'll get 130 emails after this going, what was that website again? So it'll be in the show notes. If you're listening now, click on the link in the show notes. And on there, Tom has got a complete sort of interactive map of the entire route, of each leg, of each stage. And I'm guessing there are places along the way that'll make more sense for people to be able to fly into and fly out of and things like that. So by chatting with you and your team, they'll be able to work out the logistics of that, won't they?
Yeah. Awesome. We're planning on going through most of the capitals of most of the countries, the 11 countries we run through. So they would be the most central places to meet us in the Balkans. And most of my rest days are in a capital city in the Balkans.
So good change of opportunities. So talk us through the countries then. We start in Greece, and where does the route go roughly?
It heads north through Greece to North Macedonia. Then we keep heading north. The general direction is north, through to popping into Serbia before crossing into Kosovo. Head through Kosovo back into Serbia. A small part of northwest Serbia, onto the trails at that point, so heading onto a long distance trail called the Via Dinarica, through Bosnia Herzegovina, up through Bosnia into Croatia, then through Slovenia. Then we hit the Alps in Austria, head over over or around the Alps to Innsbruck, then into France, and from France it's to Calais, and then back in the UK by the 31st or the 30th of July, with the UK stage being the first weekend in August.
Got you. So you're going to be ending up back in the UK sort of around the 31st of July, and so it's that last weekend is going to be the kind of celebratory lap around the pitch with your shirt pulled over your head, isn't it? In theory, from Dover all the way back to London.
105 miles from Dover to central London.
It'll be nothing for a man of your talents by that point. You'll do that in one go, I'd imagine.
As long as I've managed the injuries well up to that point.
There'll be no injuries. You'll be fine. You'll be young and strong, Tom. You'll be great.
Yes.
So it sounds like there's opportunities there for people to come out and run with you all the way through the area, which, is pretty much once in a lifetime opportunity to run through those places, really, where someone's already thought of the route planning for you. I want to go back a minute and ask you, you kind of skirted over that fact there. You were like, either we'll go over or around the Alps. Not quite sure of the plan there yet. What's going on?
So my original route was to go from Villach straight over the Alps to Innsbruck, but I've been chatting to a few people who've run a lot around the Alps, and they're quite big hills in that area. Tend to be. So I may take some of the smaller routes around. Yeah.
Still stunning scenery, but without quite the ridiculous height gain every day.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. Okay, and then in terms of when you get back to the UK, I know you were originally in discussions with a UK race organizer to try and organize some kind of event, and that's not quite come off the way we hoped it was going to, but we still do have hopes. That's the plan, isn't it, still, for some kind of 2 or 3 day event back in the UK when you get back?
2 or 3 day, as you say, lap around the football field, but make it quite an inclusive event for people to come and run along with me. Again, ideally for part of the days or all of the days, but trying to culminate with quite a large tribe of us finishing in central London together.
Fantastic. So it's going to be a case of, well, I'm going to be keeping people updated between now and then, and also along, with the updates from you during the event itself. So I'm really hopeful we can build a tribe of people to come and run some of that August bank holiday weekend with you to get you finally over the line, which would be great. And I suppose if there's anybody listening who has a background in helping organize logistics and events and organizing and things like that, and would be interested in helping take on some of that for the August weekend, get in touch with me or Tom. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be perfect. If there is a race director out there who fancies setting up an organised event, that would be perfect.
You just never know who's listening, who thinks that might be something that we can help out with. All right, and then in terms of, you already mentioned the sort of the aim of raising awareness for people who have come over as refugees and had to make the journey. Talk to us a little bit about human trafficking and the people that you're raising money for, Tom.
So I'm raising money for a small charity called Tribe Freedom Foundation, who were developed out of a similar long run across Eastern Europe, across one of the most heavily used people trafficking routes. And through investigating with them and understanding more about human trafficking, refugees are at high risk of exploitation, and so the link is to try and help people who are high at risk of exploitation and modern slavery survive that and try and end that modern slavery. Try and end modern slavery in the world today. The Tribe Freedom Foundation works with, they fund a couple of projects, the Snowdrop Project in Ella's home, who work with survivors of modern slavery in London and Sheffield. And they also funded the UK Modern Slavery Helpline to try and give people who are experiencing exploitation of modern slavery a place to call up and get some help to get out of modern slavery. Yeah.
So the guys behind Tribe, and when we originally had Guy on the show after he's done the first Run for Love, and he talked then a little bit about human trafficking and the scale of it that happened was, I mean, it's amazing something like that goes on in the world and you could be completely unaware that it goes on. They've raised tons of money, haven't they? I think did Run for Love this year raise 150,000 quid, something like that.
Yeah. Run for Love was another 6-day, multi-day run in the Azores, and it raised 180, I think, was the total target.
Oh, amazing.
To try and fund 2 new safe houses for survivors of modern slavery.
Yeah, so those guys are, I mean, they're a great bunch of people anyway, and obviously sponsors of the show. Products are great, but what they're doing in the background in terms of raising money for a really good and important cause is super good as well. Tribe sponsors of yours for the duration of your, how does that work? You're getting free energy bars and protein bars dropped on you from little parachutes from the sky?
Pretty much.
Awesome.
Product will be supplied.
Love those
for
guys.
me to use during the race. Although I use Tribe a lot over the last few years, and there's only so many Tribe bars you can eat, but they are awesome.
I suppose that the challenge is eating enough of anything just to stay alive, isn't it? It helps if it's delicious as well, but it's.
And the Tribe bars are delicious to start with.
Yeah, it does a good job, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then in terms of, like, there's something I've always wondered here, in terms of funding something like this, you're obviously having 3 months off work.
Yeah.
How would you go about, firstly, the fundraising for yourself to be able to do something like this, and then secondly, the monumental task of raising money to actually give to the charity at the end of it?
I am currently self-funding this project, so it's just trying to...
It's coming out of your savings, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically, at the moment, trying to find other ways of funding has proven challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then that's trying to build the story and the narrative to try and fundraise for the charity. All the money that people sponsor me is going straight to the charity. None of it is being used on the project. And just trying to build that story and trying to get more people aware of it. And the more people that are aware and the more people that come and join me to run parts of it and raise their own money, the more impact we can have for the charity.
Awesome stuff, man. So what we need are, firstly, crazy lunatics like you who want a crazy run adventure across Europe to come and join you and do some running.
Yeah.
Secondly, crazy lunatics who are good at leveraging cash out of their friends to sponsor them to do stuff like this for good causes. Someone who's got a motorhome sitting there doing nothing and thinks, we'll let Tom have that for 4 months. There you go. Have a motorhome. Or anyone with contacts with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And a race organizer who can help organize any logistics, or who knows, even someone who's got mates at Ineos where they can drop the money out to help sponsor it so that it doesn't all have to come out of your pocket. That'd be nice as well, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be nice.
Anything else you could do with help with? Because I remember after the last time you were on, we were really lucky that my mate Jamie got in contact, and he works for a company down in Greece, doesn't he? And he was able to give logistical support. So it's worth kind of thinking laterally at this point, to thinking, right, let's crowdsource these ideas out to our listeners. What else could you possibly do with help with at this point?
Anybody that's got any PR or marketing experience to get the message out and to really leverage the story to increase the impact of the charity would be useful. Yeah,
cool. Okay.
And then anybody who fancies managing the logistics for me would also, so I can focus on training and running. But that is being taken care of by my team at the moment. But if anybody wants to come on board and support with that, that would be good.
All right, brilliant. Well, listen, man, I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. Well, firstly, on a physical and mental, just a pure multi-day test of grit and resolve and determination. The fact it's been a 5-year journey to get you here in the first place and get in shape for it, but also the dedication that you've got to raising awareness and money for a really worthwhile cause as well.
Thank you.
All right, so listen, listeners, if you're out there, if you think you can help out in any way, that would be absolutely brilliant. Tom, we salute you. I salute you. I think you're one of the nicest guys I know, and you are one of the most dedicated to making, noticeable but steady progress towards an almost impossible sounding goal originally. And I'm absolutely blown away that you've got to the stage that you have, and I can't wait to see this crazy adventure play out in real life, man.
No, I can't wait to see it begin now. It's been a long time in development, so I kind of am ready just to start and put one foot in front of the other.
Good man. All right, well, listen, we're going to do regular updates before the start of the event and then regular updates during it. So that's not the end the listeners are going to hear about this, but just one last time, where can people go to find out more about this, or if they want to get involved, how do they go about that?
Head over to the website, runtorefuge.com, and drop me a line through the website and I'll be in touch.
All right, great stuff. Tom Crossland, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Very best of luck with the rest of your training, and we will talk to you again.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
Okay, guys, I hope you liked that interview. I hope you found it interesting and inspirational. And if there's anybody out there who's looking for something to do this summer, something a little bit different, Me and my friends were talking this weekend while we were away. We had a couple of friends away in Snowdonia, and we're chatting about the prospect of going away for a long weekend to do a multi-day ultra run, not as part of a big organised event that gives out medals, but as something to raise money for a good charity like this, to see a different part of the world that we haven't seen before, something we're attracted to the idea of. And I've got a feeling that a lot of our listeners are going to be interested in that as well. But again, Tom's only 15, 16 weeks away from starting this. There's still a huge amount to put in place there in terms of logistics and help for him. So if you think you or anyone that you know could be of help to him, I'd be really grateful if you can get in touch with Tom through his website. That's runtorefuge.com. There'll be a link to that in the show notes of today's episode. All right, guys. So another shout out to our sponsors here, Tribe. Now you'll have mentioned, we've heard them mentioned there in Tom's interview. Tribe is sponsoring Tom by giving him free product for his run. Tribe are also sponsoring the show at the moment. So this week we're going to focus on the range of Infinity energy bars, the protein bars and protein shakes, because they are all 100% natural and vegan. So if you are out there at the moment and you're giving Veganuary a go and you're struggling to find sports nutrition that you can take that's easily made and ready prepared for you, Tribe could have the answer for you. You can get yourself your first pack for £2 using the code OxygenAddict20 at checkout. It'll be posted to you through the post. They come in a very clever little flat cardboard parcel. You can actually choose the things you get in your 6-pack as well. So you can select all energy bars, or protein bars, or recovery shakes, or a mix of any of them. And really get in and give those a go. I'm going to give a shout out to my favorite, which they do a chocolate and sea salt recovery shake, which I think is really good. So get on that and check it out. So if you are giving Veganuary a go, as you'll know from listening, I really struggled getting my protein intake right while I was vegan for a while. And so these ready-prepared products are all natural, are really good, taste great, and basically take all the thinking out of your planning for your protein when you're having snacks and things. Also, if you're going out for long rides at this time of year, why not take advantage of an offer where you get 6 bars for £2? I'm always struggling to have something in to ride with, and getting one of these packs, that's going to be my go-to over the next few weeks. So check them out over at wearetribe.co/oxygenaddict offer, and the code again is oxygenaddict20. All right, Coach's Couch this week had a question on email. This came through a few weeks ago from Andrew Kelly. So Andrew, apologies for taking a few weeks to get around to answering this for you, but it is a great question. He writes, I've got a question regarding pace and heart rate on the run. I've been onto your website, Rob, and I've entered a recent race result into your pace calculator to find my training paces. And for my long runs, the easy pace feels comfortable, but my heart rate is still higher than what I'd expect. It's probably higher than 150 beats a minute. There's a lot of articles suggesting that an easy paced run should be about 50 to 60% of max heart rate. And to achieve that, I'd be running at about 90 seconds slower per kilometre than my suggested easy pace. Can you help? Basically, my question is, should I focus more on keeping the relevant pace, or should I focus on keeping my heart rate lower? So cracking question, Andrew. And the easy answer is I want you to go with pace rather than heart rate. And the reason is the heart rate, you've identified it really well in your question here. It's largely down to who's writing the article, what they're measuring heart rate relative to. So first of all, the maximum heart rate isn't a great thing to be measuring your heart rate zones by anyway, because we've either got to estimate it or you've got to do a really unpleasant maximal heart rate test. So we're never sure whether it's really a complete maximum heart rate. And again, it's not that well recommended for older athletes anyway, going to 100% of max flat out heart rate. So don't be too put off by this idea of 50 to 60% of max heart rate. What you will find is if you set your heart rate zones relative to your threshold heart rate, your zone 2 heart rate would line up really nicely with the e-pace or easy pace runs from my pace calculator. So the two do line up really nicely, but you've got to set it relative to threshold pace, or relative to your threshold heart rate. So in easy terms, if you did say a 10K or a slightly longer race, any kind of race where you'd be running for about an hour, Your average heart rate for that hour is going to be your threshold heart rate. And then just use Training Peaks and use Joe Friel's heart rate for running zones in there. That'll set your heart rate zones up. So you don't want to be worrying about that 50 to 60% of max heart rate number. Okay. If you do it this way, they'll line up really nicely. What I will say is, again, don't worry about whether 150 feels too high or too low for you. Heart rate is very individual and can vary probably plus or minus 20 or 30 beats a minute, depending on the individual athlete, even running at the same relative pace and output. So the actual number, again, is very individual. Don't worry about that too much. What I would say to you is, if you just go out and you run at your easy pace, let's say for the sake of argument, your easy pace is an 8-minute mile, and you just look at what your heart rate does. If you do lots of running at easy pace, across a period of a couple of months, you'll notice that your heart rate at that pace gradually gets lower. So that's showing that you're getting both more efficient as a runner, running at that pace and that heart rate, or more efficient at that pace. You're also probably getting more efficient in terms of fuel delivery to your system, which is exactly what we want for you if you're training for long distance triathlon. So classically, what our athletes will see is as they're doing lots of running at e-pace, the heart rate will drop by maybe 5 or even 10 beats per minute at a given pace across a 2 or 3 month block. That really shows that you're adapting, that your fuel supply is adapting. You're probably oxidizing more fat for fuel than carbohydrate. And again, that's exactly what we want to see if you're training for both long distance triathlon, but also really for any distance triathlon. To be able to get a bigger percentage of your energy from fat is a real benefit. Okay, so thanks very much for sending that in. If you guys are interested in finding out more about coaching, or you're considering getting some coaching at this time of year, we've got a great offer on at the moment over at my coaching company, Team Oxygen Addict. We're offering you your first 30 days of coaching for just £1. So the reason we're doing this is this time of year, January is obviously a great time to get people onto the coaching wagon and get you lined up ready for your events this year. We genuinely want to get you inside and get you some coaching and just see what it's all about. There's no catches. You don't have to sign up and it doesn't automatically roll onto a contract after that. Just give it a go and see what difference having a plan written for you is going to make to you in your life. Because I really think once you've experienced it, you're really going to like it. And from my point of view, selfishly as a business person, the more people who stick around, the better. But also from a triathlon point of view, the more people who are getting good coaching and good solid training plans and are going to achieve their goals with less effort and more structure, the better for everybody. So one of the things we do within our coaching team is we track every week how many of our athletes are getting their key sessions done. So we'll give everyone a training plan. Then we'll say within this, there are 4 key sessions every week. We nominate 2 bike sessions, 1 run session and 1 swim session as your core key sessions. Do not miss these. If everything else goes to hell in a handcart, get these 4 sessions done. And you're still going to get sort of 90% of the benefit of your training plan from getting 4 of your sessions done in the week. Now, we've started tracking this from the start of the year. And the first week, we had 30 members hit 100% of their 4 key sessions in the week. We then told the members that we were keeping track of it. I told them who they were. In week 2 of keeping track, that numbers jumped to 51 of our members out of 150 getting 100% of those 4 key sessions done. So almost double the number of people are getting their 4 key sessions done just because we're keeping a track and telling them who's got the key sessions done. And I think that really underlines the importance to people of if you've got a plan and you're being held accountable to it, you're going to get much more done than either if you haven't got a plan or you're not being held accountable. So I'm really lucky. My business partner is a whiz with technology and he's written a computer program that sucks all the information out the back of Training Peaks, puts it into an easy to digest spreadsheet every week that says, right, this number of your athletes have done all of their key sessions this week. And it means that of our 150, 180, actually close to 200 members at the moment, we know exactly who's getting all of the key sessions done. We can celebrate them and we can intervene with the athletes who are not managing to get the key sessions done, and we can give them the support that they need. So that sounds like something that's going to work for you. If getting a training plan is going to be something that's going to help you out, and come on board. There's a link in the show notes. You can just go to teamoxygenaddict.com and you can get that first month there for £1. Click the link in the show notes. All right, guys, that's all from me for this week. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you all go away and have a great training week. I know the weather's a bit miserable at the moment, but stick with it. Spring is on the way. Final thanks to our sponsors, Precision Hydration. Use the code OxygenAddict15 for 15% off your first order. Tribe, enter the code OxygenAddict20 and get 6 bars for £2. Thriver.co, you can use the code OxygenAddict50 for 50% off your first blood test. And actually, if you enjoyed listening to episode 266, which was our Improving Health and Performance special that came out on New Year's Day, you'll have heard me talking about the Thriver blood tests there. Dr. Anton Krieger, who was the guest interview, the expert in that show, emailed me this week to say he's doing a special deal for our listeners and he's reduced his prices for his athlete consultations. So if you've done a blood test, and I know a whole bunch of you have, and you want help and expertise analysing the results and working out what interventions you can do to really get your health back on track, head over to his website. There's a link in the show notes, and he's reduced his prices quite significantly for January offers there for you guys. So get over there and check that out. And click the link in the show notes for more information about Team Oxygen Addict Triathlon Coaching. All right then, guys, remember, links in the show notes for all these sponsors, so you don't have to remember them. If you can help out my friend Tom Crossland, either by having an awesome running adventure or by providing some support there, then do that. And apart from that, that's everything this week. Until next week, guys, have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. See ya.